Hello, welcome to Telling Tales. We make atmospheric role-playing games here on the internet. We stream them for you, and today is a one-shot. It's MÖRK BORG, the second time we will be venturing into the dying lands of this filthy doom metal indie RPG. And we're very glad to be here. Before we get started, there's a few things to cover. First off, the usual boring promo. If you check down below, there's a bunch of links. There's links to our YouTube and our Twitch. Please check out one since you're watching on the other. Our YouTube stores all of our historical actual plays. There are hundreds of hours of stuff there, many different series and one-shots. So no doubt something you'll enjoy, probably, unless you hate us and how we do things, in which case maybe MÖRK BORG is exactly the right game to be playing to foster that real sense of treacherous loathing. There's also links to our social media, to our Discord and our Patreon. Those all do what you might expect. Please have a look at those if they interest you. We are currently running 3 weekly series here on Twitch. Mondays is Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Wednesdays is Into the Odd. It's usually Simba Room, which is sort of our flagship show, but at the moment we're playing Into the Odd as a sort of break. Thursdays is Cincinnati Chronicles. That is an old World of Darkness anthology series. We're currently on our Wraith the Oblivion arc and having all the fun of that nightmare existential system. And then we run one-shots once a month. This is one of them. This is MÖRK BORG. We've run a lot of different ones. Troika, Honey Heist, Cyberpunk, Dune, 1,000 others. Go check them out, as I said, on our YouTube. We did run a MÖRK BORG one-shot before called Charnel Whispers. This is a sort of sequel to it, though you won't have to have watched that one to enjoy this one. It's the same characters, same continuity, but an unrelated story, so you will be fine. And with that in mind, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce our players and our characters first, and then we're going to talk about how the giveaway will work, because today we are giving away a lovely Kickstarter limited edition of MÖRK BORG, which if I had any sense and preparation around me, I would be gesturing towards the camera right now. I'll grab it later after our first break and show it to you folks. But yeah, we'll be giving that away. And the way that giveaway will work is that at some point during the stream today, we are going to give you a task, and that task will be in the chat to post a name of your own devising, and that name must be able and appropriate to be applied to both a MÖRK BORG story and a doom metal album title. We don't mean kind of like coming up, like going and looking at a doom metal album title or anything. It has to be a name of your own devising, and it has to apply to both those things pretty well. And we're just going to pick one. We're going to pick what we like the best, and that person will receive a copy of our limited Kickstarter edition of the MÖRK BORG core book. Does that sound good? That sounds pretty good. But yeah, we'll tell you when the giveaway is going to happen. Throw the stuff in chat, and we will, after a short amount of time, come back and you'll find out who wins. Yes. It just occurred to me that I just said I would introduce the characters and then explain the giveaway, but I've just explained the giveaway, and now I'll introduce the characters. That's the kind of professionalism you can expect from Telling Tales. So, with no further ado, let's bring on our first player. Our first player today is Pierre. Pierre plays Torval, the Fanged Deserter. Hi, Pierre. How you doing?
I am doing well, Matt. I am doing probably a lot better than Torval is doing. He's pretty consistently kind of starved and gaunt, although he's been getting a bit stronger since last you may have seen him, and slightly more agile, more intelligent. He's going up in the world. And
for intelligence, I mean, that was a low baseline for Torval.
Yeah. It was not good, but still. For what he was, he now feels just so much better all around, and with his vast amounts of cash that he somehow managed to scavenge together, he has bought 9 rats, 4 needles, and some poison.
I can't even begin to think where Torval might be going with that.
He's got plans.
Labyrinthine and Machiavellian plan. It's also worth noting that Torval, as a Fanged Deserter, has a huge mouthful of sharpened teeth.
Yeah.
Which he would use to eat his opponents alive viciously. But Torval, the cruel trickery of the gods have made him horribly intimidating looking, vicious and violent, but also a bit of a massive coward.
That is
So,
true.
yeah.
He escapes, with his life, if not his dignity. He
And
also has a dog, a lovely dog called
He does have a
Burke.
lovely dog, and a trusty crossbow as well, if I recall correctly. So there we go. That is Torval the Fang Deserter. Let's move on to Steve. Steve plays Riston, who is the optional character class of Gutterborn Scum. There we go. Steve, tell us about Riston.
Yeah, well, Riston's doing quite well. Still alive, which is a plus. Slightly burnt after the last adventure. So he's gone off. He's got himself some slightly better armor, sort of either probably scavenged. Still doesn't conceal the weird ever seeping wound somewhere around his neck that's sort of covered by just this filthy oozing neckerchief. But oh yes, and he doesn't smell particularly good. Kind of a combination of wet, essentially a wet dog with a body odor problem.
Who does? Certainly, no one in the world of MÖRK BORG smells particularly well. Yeah, Riston he's doing all right.
He's doing all right, yeah.
From that seeping wood. But there we go. Our third player today is Sam. You may know him as the GM for our Monday Warhammer. He is playing Harmug, the heretical priest. Sam, you walked us through kind of Harmug's character advancement earlier. It sounded great. Like it went really well for you.
It went just fantastic. See, I think Harmug, perpetually haunted by the two-headed basilisk of the One True Faith. I think he was really, he kind of had enough when he went down that last dungeon, and he was just kind of hoping maybe he could stop being haunted at that point. Maybe this would be the last dungeon he'd end up going. But no, he came out quite well, really. Got a load of silver out of it and did all right. So he decided he was going to go and drink away his problems instead, I think. So now he's pretty much done nothing but drink and eat and fritter away some of his silver on that, and also a few useful things like a crossbow
and some of his statistics,
some other useful stuff. But he also frittered away some of his stats, and this is meant to be a level up process, and I managed a level down process between sessions there.
You did get another scroll of power, though, right?
I did get a scroll of power, yeah. So I can. I have the Quetzalcoatl blind your eye, which we'll see what that does during the session.
I can't imagine what that might do, but I'm sure we'll find out. And then our final character. The really important character is an NPC associated with this character, as we all know. But our final character of the day is played by John, who plays the pleasingly rhyming Von, who is wretched royalty. John, explain Von to us.
Von is, or he thinks he is a man of noble and royal bearing, but honestly, it just looks like a wretched mess. He's dressed in like rotted lace and moth-eaten velvet, and now some not very nice looking light armor. One hand was formerly a very rusted hook, but has since been replaced with a shiny new and much larger iron hook that has been very badly attached to his forearm. So badly. I'm terrified. It's going to be great. He's also, since last time, picked up chewing tobacco habits due to a permanent God, I can't remember what the Victorians called it. A horrible consumption, rattling, phlegmy cough, which I think I didn't properly do last roleplay due to microphone issues, and has covered up the smell with exquisite perfume.
Absolutely.
But the main notable thing about him is that he is at all times accompanied by his one surviving member of his royal court, the jester known as Poltroon.
Absolutely. A wretched, skinny, bedraggled individual, constantly capering and performing ill-timed and unseemly jests for his master, who it has to be said, since probably the events of the last story, I think Torval and Harmug may now be kind of staying a bit clear of Poltroon for reasons of their own, and I'm sure we'll get into it later as it goes forward. But it goes without saying that Poltroon, definitely, I think it's fair to say a little bit of a sort of favorite NPC of ours since that first story. But I'm sure we'll find out more about that later. So there we go. Last time on MÖRK BORG, we were performing kind of punishment for the judge of a town going and investigating a nasty dungeon out in the wasteland to recover a stone mask. And the events of that are horrible and filthy and well documented, and we won't dip too much into that as we go forward today. Instead, we have a new story called The Condemned, which, unless anyone has any extra things they'd like to note, we'll crack on with. Then we're all fine. And again, as I mentioned, if you're here, but maybe you're here primarily for the giveaway even, it will happen at an undetermined point later in the stream, because my parents did not raise a fool. But it will be fun when it happens, and it'll be worth it, I promise. You'll enjoy yourself. Otherwise, it's fine. Okay, so you have no knowledge of what became of the judge, the town, and that cold, cold granite mask, and perhaps that is for the best. After being released, the journey back to Golgenbeck was long and hard. All the roads were swarming with pitiful refugees, fleeing an unknown horde of brutal warriors marching forth from the west under a banner of living flame. Instead, you crept through the wilderness, enduring the prick of thorns and the attentions of ticks and leeches until the crumbling walls of the Tfailan capital were in sight. There you rested, caroused, and carried out petty bloodshed for coin until the desperation of inertia set in. Seeking out more significant knife work from your usual contacts, a trembling wretch in a darkened mushroom den mentioned a rumor of good pay from someone whispered of in hushed tones through taverns and snickleways as the Intendant. You encouraged further information at the point of a blade, and now find yourself outside a crumbling old townhouse on a strangely silent street, far from the noise and chaos and dung of a usual Golgenbeck evening. The wind sends a blood-stained rag tumbling across cobblestones, and the torchlight flickering as one of you steps up to the door to knock an echoing staccato rhythm on the pitted and peeling wood. Would one of you like to volunteer as the person knocking on the door, or do we want to roll it randomly?
I will step up and knock with my knocking hand.
You are the senior member, as you perceive it anyway, of the group, so that's definitely matches. As you reach up and kind of bang on the door, Poltroon kind of capers around the group of you in the empty street, sort of like miming a knocking in the air with it, and in his annoying Weasley voice going, knock, 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 knock.
I flinch a little when he does it near me.
I was about to say Harmug is also flinching. Harmug is kind of just moving away from wherever Poltroon is dancing.
Absolutely. After not too long, you can hear the sound of footsteps kind of resonating out from behind the door, kind of slowly proceeding towards it. I'm assuming we're just standing there normally. There's no kind of like, there's no need for alarm or preparation of any kind.
I mean, I might sort of, find a shadow close by the door and just sort of lurk, in my usual stealthy.
Sure. So the person opening it doesn't see you immediately, just in case.
Yeah.
Sure.
I will look into my bag, which is wriggling slightly, and you'll hear me sort of whispering.
Absolutely. Well, the door creaks open and reveals a figure swathed head to toe in black cloth, completely covering their face, their eyes, any form of identifier you could have. They stand in the doorway for a moment and kind of lean forward slightly as if peering through that black cloth is quite difficult, as it probably is. And in the flickering street torchlight, they kind of like look at the range of you standing there and then mutely gesture for you to come inside.
Look up from the bag, and if no one else goes in first, I'll follow.
Sure.
I am making a point to tie up Crust, my not too bad donkey, outside, which means I'm last in, which is another convenient side point.
Sure. Okay, you enter into old, slightly tumble down, but still obviously wealthy corridors. There are walls covered in sort of bad, slightly faded paintings, old furniture and the like, as this black cloth swathed figure leads you through and then onwards, not too further ahead, to a large and deeply shadowed chamber where richly dressed people in heavy stage makeup lounge about, silently turning their head to watch you pass as you walk towards a man sat with one leg up on an ornate and plush chair at the end of the room. He wears a typical Golgenbeck masquerade mask, but it is far from festival season. He's dressed in rich but slightly threadbare crimson clothes and has long greying hair tied back in a greased ponytail. The room up until now has been completely silent, by the way. There's kind of a rustle of cloth, but all these people, none of them are talking. They're just watching you progress. Von, you can sense kind of poltroon's capering reducing itself in both volume and the room it takes up. And in fact, he's maybe like perched a little bit behind you, sort of clinging onto the back of your clothes with a kind of an unpleasant needingness as he's peering round from behind you.
Look, no pissing here.
Your hound at your side. The hound definitely looks on his best behavior.
I am just subtly grasping my silver crucifix underneath my clothing and perhaps nervously glancing around for any signs of the two-headed basilisk on the walls or on anyone's clothing or anything.
You definitely don't see any of that. The individual, presumably the intendant, sat in his chair, kind of dandles one leg over the side and starts speaking. As he speaks, the onlookers gesture almost as a whole to emphasize his words and occasionally trail their hands across each other's faces and clothes in a slightly unsettlingly seductive manner. Ah, sirs, am I to assume that you attend me now to proffer your services? Perhaps in bringing me something that I might desire? He sort of plays with a brooch on his breast as he talks.
That depends. Is there a coin in it that we heard?
Of course. Services rewarded.
And what do you want looking for then?
So you are interested. Wondrous. Spectacular. All the onlookers kind of like give out in the silence around you, kind of like give a little polite clap, almost kind of in unison at the same time. I know men like you like to get down to business. I seek a dagger onto which the condemned has carved their victims' names. Well, I see the doubt on your faces, but I assure you the hard work is already done. I know who possesses such a thing. Lady Grin is known for the affectation and has been judged by the city officials. Even now her life is forfeit for her many foul crimes, and she is to leave the city on a sentence of forlorn hope. But before she does, she throws a party. A distraction for enterprising folk such as yourself to sneak into her mansion and purloin her blade. all of the onlookers sort of once again give a little clap. Could all of you please roll presence at a difficulty of 16? The way the dice system in this works, by the way, for anyone interested, it's D20 with stat modifiers. Fairly simple, fairly D&D like for those of you who indulge in that particular game.
I got 8.
So that's a no, then.
That's a no. That's a real no.
That's a no.
So the target is 16 standard plus our modifier. Okay, I passed that.
16.
There was
The target is 16, and you roll your D20 and add your modifier.
Yeah, got it. I got
Or
18.
subtract it. You got 18. Okay. How about Riston?
I rolled a 9, so
no. Okay.
even with nights, my class has a bonus on reducing presence tests, but I still don't manage.
There we go. Harmug then is the only one to notice this so far, at least. As you kind of like glance around at the onlookers nearest you, you see kind of like in the shadows behind them, because it's quite an ill-lit chamber, kind of sort of like blurred movement, and you're not exactly sure what that is. And as you are watching and your eyes kind of trail across an onlooker nearby, and a kind of very lavishly made-up woman wearing a sort of very fancy floral blue dress. It's well past its prime, but it's still, nicely made. As her hands clap together, you notice one of her nails is sort of partly peeled back from the quick, and as you watch, as she claps, it tumbles from her hand and into her lap. You take in that her hands seem very pale and blotchy and oddly sallow and sunken looking, and then you realize that behind each of the onlookers is another figure, swathed head to toe in black cloth, reaching round, holding their arms, tilting their heads, and moving what must be 20, 30 corpses, all dressed up and plastered in stage makeup in a horrible, duplication of the actions of the living.
Harmug takes a step back.
Absolutely.
There's no dark shape behind the person we're talking to, presumably.
No, none at all.
Okay,
None at all.
I'm not going to do anything else immediately.
Absolutely. So the intendant has given you, some form of task. Are there any questions you wish to ask about it?
There wouldn't be any. What kind of guards? What kind of protection does her house have? Is it going to be deserted?
As I say, so much of the work has already been done for you fine fellows. There is a very modest and secret way inside. Thurg here can show you the way. Can't you, Thurg? A shivering, waifish girl emerges from between the onlookers, recoiling as she brushes past an arm. Her eyes downcast away from the intendant, she nods nervously. Everyone's turned and looked at the onlookers to do this. So anyone who hasn't noticed yet, can you roll presence at difficulty 14, please?
Still a failure. But I believe that Burke might have smelled that something was wrong.
Well, this is definitely why Burke is acting a bit reluctant. Vaughn, how did you do?
I passed.
You passed. Okay, Vaughn, you have also noticed that all the onlookers are dead and being manipulated by some kind of twisted sort of backstage crew.
I rolled a 1, so...
Then you're not going to roll again, and you are
Kristen's...
convinced that they're alive until proved otherwise.
I'm just looking around for things to nick.
Absolutely.
I think Harmug is just continuing to slowly back out of the room at this point already.
Sure.
I think Von is both, at first, initially disappointed that this beautiful court of attendants is not what it seems, but then extra impressed that he seems to have an additional amount of attendants carrying this puppetry out.
Absolutely. But Von might even think that, maybe he could have thought of it first. So, this plan being offered to you, Torval, you seem to be the person kind of like doing the talking, which is great because you've got just the worst talking voice. Do you obviously this Thurg is being offered to show you the way in? Any kind of response to this?
Yeah, we'll take her. Sounds useful. You got some ways in.
He nods, very pleased, and says at a kind of higher tone, "Then a covenant is sealed. Let us drink to victory or death." He gestures, and another black cloth-shrouded figure emerges from the same place Thurg was lurking, with a dull silver tray of battered metal goblets of red wine. They are kind of offered out to you.
Don't mind if I do.
Is everyone drinking from the proffered wine?
I will take a goblet, and as customary, I will give Poltroon the first taste to
Of
make
course.
sure it's not poisonous.
Poltroon kind of like takes, and all of you have seen Poltroon do this before, kind of tasting Von's food and drink, and he often kind of like pretends to be choking or like and pretends it's utterly foul or whatever, and you can see him kind of like reach out and grab it and like tip it back and take a sip and go. And then he just kind of like looks over carefully at the intendant and takes him in for a moment and goes, "Good, master, good." And then retreats behind Von and kind of like peers around the side of him again.
Harmug was taking a moment to just kind of inspect one of the corpses, I think, having drawn back a bit, and then maybe just speaks up and goes, No wine for the guests?
The intendant just replies with a sort of silvery peeling laugh.
Well, I will take a cup and raise it, and then yes,
I'll
Drink a
join in
toast.
the laugh very awkwardly.
I will drink Harmug's mug.
Well, the wine, it tastes expensive and somewhat pleasant, but there's definitely a disconcerting hint of night soil to it.
Mm.
The intendant seems pleased that you have all, or most of you have drunk, raises his glass and takes a swig, or his metal goblet, I should say, and says, "Thurg, take our brave heroes onward, then, to victory or death." He sort of leans back in the chair and gives a little away gesture, which the onlookers all like raise their hands as one and duplicate. Torval, so you're the only person, like I said, Riston can't notice anymore. Torval, could you give one last presence roll at 12, please, to see if you pick up on this?
I got 11.
There we go then. Torval, completely oblivious, as you are escorted out of the house alongside the waif Thurg, and you find yourself on the doorstep outside.
The moment we're like outside, I will just turn to Thurg and go, "What's with all the corpses?"
Thurg kind of looks up at you with a kind of mildly terrified expression and just goes,
I was going, "Oh, it's going to be like that, is it?"
Corpses? What?
Yeah, I get it. They're stiffs. You know, they're upper class. They're not not fun at a party. They weren't imbibing our drinks.
They were all dead.
Harmug, I never took
corpses.
you as one for court gossip.
Not so
Didn't
much.
you see them waving? I've never heard of a corpse waving.
Didn't you see all the puppeteers with their strings? Fool. And I'll like lift my hand up to slap you and then look at your teeth and go,
Poltroon starts scampering around the group in a circle, going, "What an excellent play! A lovely production, a wonderful evening's entertainment. Did you enjoy it, master?" And he kind of like leans over and paws at your arm again. He started doing this a lot recently. You don't like it.
It was definitely impressive. They definitely talk a lot less than you, Poltroon.
Oh, Paul Troon, he talks too much, but he is worthless compared to his mighty master and his huge hook.
I sort of appreciatively look at the glint of the lamplight off my beautiful new iron hook.
It's definitely at a slight angle.
Slightly
yeah.
It's worth saying the fixing has been adorned in an extra amount of rotted lace.
Yeah, just like a cuff. Yeah. Nice. Ferg looks very keen to kind of lead you off through the streets of Golgenbeck. Are we doing anything else, or kind of entertaining any distraction along the way, or just making our way forwards?
I'll happily follow Ferg and see where they go.
Cool.
What's the weather like? Is it sort of a strong moonlight or?
Hey, you know what? For today, one thing that we're using a lot is I say what we are using a lot is the first MÖRK BORG zine Ferretry, which I've drawn a lot of the stuff from because I like kind of just using the core book for the first one and then adding little bits and pieces. And I was going to say there's a weather table in that we can roll, but actually I'm wrong. The weather table is in the first core book. So I will roll a d12 for the weather and get back to you on that, Steve. At the moment, it just says black as night. So you know what? It is incredibly overcast overhead, and walking through the streets of Golgenbeck is like walking through a tunnel. The only light comes from flickering lanterns, and the occasional dim orange glow from a tavern or another emporium that might be open this late at night as you pass them. And once you've emerged from this area, there are definitely more people walking the streets of Golgenbeck, all of them eyes cast down from passing you, not wanting to make any eye contact with this group of filthy ruffians as you proceed through the streets. And Ferg definitely knows where she's going. She leads you through many recognizable streets that you know, and then off into a series of sort of side streets and alleyways before finally emerging not too long later at what you definitely know this is kind of the edge of a fancier quarter where a lot of the nobles have their large, slightly decaying homes. But she leads you kind of in a side alley nearby to it, down where you can see ahead of you that there is a set of cracked stone steps leading down to what looks like a boarded up metal doorway set into a wall. Ferg sort of looks around cautiously to see if there's anyone else. She definitely seems nervous of being seen walking down here. And then she starts to creep down the stairs.
I will slip silently along with her in the shadows. Perfect night for thievery. So
I'll just kind of gently push Crust against the wall and be like, "You stay here now. Be good. Stay."
The donkey. Yeah.
I will do my best at sneaking, which means I will thud down the stairs one by one, making quite a lot of noise.
Yeah, generally being just terrible at what you're attempting. Yeah, that sounds about right. All right, you make your way down these stone steps. They're not very deep. Maybe 10 feet or so under the street level. Once you reach the metal doorway, which is indeed covered with a number of oldish-looking kind of already partly damaged wooden boards, you can see that there is an old tattered notice nailed next to the doorway that warns that under no circumstances should anyone try to enter on pain of summary execution. Ferg taps at the boards and then scrambles up the stairs behind you, shooting one last eyes-wide glance at you before vanishing into the night. And agency.
So there's you're saying that there's it's boarded up, but there's a sign saying on penalty of death.
Yeah, don't fucking go in here. And on that, my first big swear word of the day. I should point out, by the way, that if anyone's watching who doesn't like gross stuff and grim stuff, this might not be the one shot for you. And lots of swearing, obviously. Probably should have said that at the beginning. Mork Borg comes with a maybe don't play this if you're 16 and under thing. And I don't think that's entirely true, but, you know, we're going to go hard with the Mork Borg aesthetic today. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, the room full of corpse puppets.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Well,
Maybe I have already given my hand.
Harmug, this looks like a job for you. Just remove these boards.
You can get through there without me. Go on.
Poltroon titters something about priests liking carpenters.
If once I'm agreeing with that guy.
Well, doesn't Riston have the hammer?
Riston does have a hammer, yeah. So I'll get out this battered, rusty claw hammer, which is my equivalent of a war hammer, and I'll smirk and start trying to pry the boards off, I think.
Sure. I think these boards, you know, they seem quite old, like not ancient or anything, but they've been here years by the look of it, and they're already a little bit battered. So I'm going to say it's only a standard difficulty, but that's definitely a strength test, I think. A strength test of 12. Probably isn't Riston's strong suit.
No, Riston got slightly better. Went from -1 to 0 for modifiers.
Oh, well, there you go then.
The upgrade. So yeah, you know,
Then you've got
12 or over.
Yeah. 2 in 5 chance of succeeding.
Yeah, it doesn't do it. Rolled a 6.
Riston is struggling. He's kind of heaving these. You know, you kind of get the claw of the hammer behind him, and it just sends a spray of kind of chunks of sharp wood out. But you do manage to dodge aside before they just strike you in the face or whatever. But all you've done is broken a board a little bit. This might be a task for someone a bit more powerful than Riston.
All right, fucking give it here. Give it here.
I'll hand my hammer. Yeah, hand my hammer over.
Okay. Torval. You're a bit stronger here. And do you have like a bonus on strength rolls as well, or something like that?
No, but in character creation, I had a bonus to generate my strength, so I have a
right. Yeah. Well, it's still a 12 target. So,
and I hit it. I got 13.
I think. Do you think Torval would use a bit more of a brute approach than Riston, rather than trying to pry them off? He just
smashed the hammer, shouting like, "Die, die, die!"
Absolutely. You hear the hammer, the boards all come apart and are shattered on the ground in front of you. Ahead of you is what looks like a very heavy iron metal door. And up on the street, you can hear like the scampering of feet running away, as if maybe someone was lurking nearby or following you or whatever, but they clearly don't want to be in the area after whatever has happened.
Torval, you know we're supposed to be quiet.
I hand the hammer back to Riston and I go,
very good. So yeah, you got this heavy iron door in front of you.
Is it locked? Just try it.
Press on it and it does give slightly, but it's definitely going to take a bit of a heave to open.
Okay, I'll stand back and not try and heave it then, given I'm weak as anything.
I expectantly look from person to person until I resignedly go. And I guess I'll try and ram the store.
It's difficulty 10, so it's easier than the boards. For sure.
I look between you and my now significantly enlarged gut from the time I've spent just eating in a tavern this whole time, and then back to you.
If someone wants to help Torval with it, then he can. We'll drop the difficulty to 8.
Yeah, sure. I'll chip in.
I think it is far too early for the royalty, the upper class, to get involved in this.
Be touching a rusty
let
iron
the peasants do the work.
Yeah. All right then, Torval, give us a roll at 8, please.
Oof. I got 4 plus 3, which is 7, so I fail. So I just crack into the door.
Absolutely. You know what, Riston, you're doing it as well. Let's have you make a roll at 10, shall we? as you're heaving.
Okay.
I've loosened it up for you.
Yeah, I roll a 17.
Okay.
So.
Torval mostly seems like dead weight as this is happening. He's really not putting his back into it. But you know what, Riston? I think you, as someone with a bit more thought, maybe you get in just a nice footing on the ground and like push with your foot at the same time as you heave with your shoulder. You can definitely hear something scraping along the ground behind the door as you open it, and it kind of like almost silently swings open and with a soft clang against the back wall as it opens up. The interior passageway there has stone walls and a stone floor, and you can't see further than 1 foot inside it. It is pitch black. Someone's got a lantern, right?
Yeah, I'll light up my lantern as soon as I see folks pushing into a dock and thing.
Absolutely. And you know what? As soon as that lantern is lit, you can see definitely quite a bit further into the passageway behind. There is a mostly decayed and desiccated body wearing sort of very threadbare robes on the floor on the other side of the door. In rough charcoal letters on the wall nearby are the somewhat desperately scrawled words, "This is hell." There is also audibly a thin, distant sound of a human being wailing inscrutable words.
Well, this place looks like fun.
No, Harmog, it doesn't. It looks like a bad place.
Yes, Torval. Well done.
Well, if it was a good place, then it wouldn't be a very good sneaky back entrance, would it, Torval?
Yeah, well, I
Fair
suppose a
point.
non-hell based back entrance would be nice, you know?
Are we heading inside?
Just not
Yeah.
first.
Yes.
Oh, I might have to get that scroll out later on.
I think I will also light a lantern as well, so that I'm not entirely reliant on the coward back there for my source.
You'd rather
of
be
light.
reliant on the coward right here.
Yeah, the coward I know, the coward I've been with all
Better
my
the coward
life.
you know. That's the saying.
Yeah, and I hold the lantern up, making sure not to blind myself with it, and yeah.
Can I search this body if?
Yeah, you absolutely can. You do not find anything on the body at all. It seems to have been here, a fair while. And as I say, it's wearing robes of some kind, but you can't really make out anything more than that. Are we closing the door behind us?
Yeah. Riston would have cleared away the scraps of plank, try and clean the place up a bit, and then close the door. Presuming that he doesn't see any weird locking mechanisms or anything, but
you don't see any weird locking mechanisms. You see an old bolt lock that seems to have basically you've broken it by pushing open the door because it's that old, and you've broken away the rust around the edges of the door, and the door is still heavy, but a lot easier to close than it was to open. And as you put it, shut, you were examining the body as well, so it seems appropriate that you notice this. Near where the body was pushed back from the corridor on the behind of the door, you can see visible scratch marks down the inside of the iron door.
Nice. Great location for a party.
I don't understand. The lock was right there. What sort of idiot doesn't unlock a door before he tries to get out of it?
Poltroon has dropped down on his haunches near the body on the floor and points at the writing on the wall and points at the scratches and then kind of goes to the body. Vandalization, isn't it?
It is terrible. I think I head forwards. Is there only one way through this corridor?
Yeah, it just seems to be a stone passageway leading onwards. Yeah, that's right.
All right, I tentatively move forwards. Burke, I guess, leads the way.
Riston will be keeping an eye on the ceilings, just apropos nothing.
Absolutely. Okay, you walk onwards. That's the distant sound of that human wailing is very slowly but noticeably, increasing in volume. So you're certainly moving towards it. You emerge after just maybe 30 seconds of pacing along into a chamber, a stone chamber full of what appear to be kind of old beds, kind of cots with rough straw mattresses and pillows on them, and a few blankets scattered around as well. Notably, all of the blankets and the mattresses and the pillows are stained with some kind of dark brownish red markings that looks to be quite old. On one side of the room, there is kind of like a high shelf. There were maybe a number of things on it, but a few of them have kind of fallen off or fallen apart. All that remains are two preserved human eyes gazing on blankly from a jar full of fluid.
Are there any insects in this room?
There are. Oh well, you know what? Give me a presence roll, just standard difficulty.
That was a success.
Yeah, there's a cockroach bumbling along the floor underneath one of the beds.
I will attempt to reach under the bed, snatch it up, and eat it.
Well, give me an agility roll, and you know what? You can take it at a lower difficulty of 10 because you're well versed at snatching up insects.
I've forgotten about this particular trait.
Yeah, 20.
Oh! In that case, you know what? You grab that cockroach and you see another one scuffling out around beneath there, and you manage to grasp that one too. As you crunch down on them gleefully, you also notice something else, another set of charcoal letters scrawled on the wall underneath this bed. They say, "The misery was foretold."
Some more more words down here. It's mean anything to you, Harmug? Misery foretold?
Looks like there's some misery foretold, I'd say.
That seminary education really working for Harmug.
Does it
illuminating as ever?
I mean, misery foretold is too general a thing to roll anyway. So
yeah. There's no there's... What, you think this is a game with clues?
I think Harmug will go. Harmug will go. Oh yeah, it's from that scripture from Relman, I think. Yeah, scripture 18:4. There was
Everybody else just walks on.
I do that for a while.
As everyone else is walking on, Poltroon lurking in the back of the group will just turn and look back at Harmug and go, and then scamper onward.
I'm going to check out the eyes just while I'm in that room still as well. Presumably everyone's kind of wandered on now. But
sure. Are you taking them? There doesn't seem to be anything more to them than meets the eye right now, but you could definitely take them.
Yeah, you know what? I think I will.
Jar about that big,
Yeah, I think I will take the jar of eyes.
There isn't too many. I'm on carrying capacity right here. How wonderful! Do remember, you can carry strength plus 8 normal-sized items without a problem, and after that, you have to. And by strength plus 8, of course, it means it means 8 modified by your strength.
Okay, am I already over then? I'm probably already over.
What is your strength?
7 minus 1. For that, minus 1.
Your strength?
So your strength is
my strength
-1.
is -1, so for that it's 7. Sorry.
Yeah. So you can carry 7 normal-sized items without.
Yeah.
So.
Are rats normal-sized items?
We'll count your bag of rats as one item,
and that includes weapons, does it?
It does include weapons.
Oh, I'm 100% over there. I was probably already over before the session started. Okay, I've got a backpack if that.
What have you got? Your backpack can help you carry stuff.
Backpack is 7 normal-sized items.
Oh, so that can put.
And that is a normal item.
Okay. In that case, I'm all good. I put the jar of eyes in my backpack, therefore allowing me to carry the jar of eyes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What kind of beds are they again? Are they like
rough
cots, or is it like? Okay.
Yeah, rough. When I say cot, I mean it in the old use of the word, not like a child's cot.
Yeah.
They're adult-sized, rough wooden frames with just a straw mattress, a straw pillow, and a thin blanket thrown on them. They don't look, they're not nice beds.
I'm presuming the red stains are blood.
Yeah, they're all blood stains. Yeah, all of them.
And are there a lot of beds?
Maybe about 20 or so.
Right.
Wow.
Looks like a kind of dormitory or barracks or something.
Of death.
Mm-hmm. The dormitory of death. That will not be allowed
these...
as a submission later.
Someone killed these people.
Because it's awful. So to clarify, actually, it will be allowed, but you won't win. Sorry, Pierre, you were saying.
Well, I was just saying, if all the beds are stained, someone killed these people while they were sleeping, probably.
I mean, not necessarily. They could have tied them down.
Are there any ropes anywhere in this? Does it look?
No, there's no random piles of ropes.
No, I mean just like little.
Oh, like people have been tied to the beds. No, nothing like that.
No, can't see any. Okay, all right.
Well, they could have been stabbed and then wandered away and died elsewhere.
Maybe one of them was sleeping and then they tried to get out. We're piecing it together. This mystery.
Yeah, you are. This is suddenly Call of Cthulhu or Blade Runner or something. Okay. Investigation.
How many exits to this room are there?
There is one exit to this room dead ahead of where you came in.
Okay, I'll head towards
just like a basic wooden door.
I'll head towards that.
Okay. It opens onto what seems a passageway very similar to the last one. As you all I'm going to make assumptions that you're moving forwards through this, because otherwise we pause every time while you go and we go on. So I'll just make the assumption you're doing that. As you stride down that corridor, you can see that it carries on quite a ways ahead of you, but on one side of the corridor to your right, there is an iron door that looks very similar to the one in which you entered. It is slightly ajar.
If I cover the lantern with my hand, is there any sign of light?
No.
The screaming or wailing human sounds, is that from ahead?
It is closer, but it's definitely from further ahead down the corridor, not from this room.
Okay.
Or whatever the door reveals.
Yeah, take a look, unless anyone else does.
I'd like to maybe listen at the door if I can.
Sure, give me a presence roll, please.
Okay, and this will reduce the DR by 2 because of my innate skill.
Cool.
So I rolled a 17.
Yep. You hear nothing.
Sounds quiet.
But very accurately. Okay. Harmug, you were taking a look inside the room, I believe. It is a smallish stone room. If you had to guess, you would say that it was probably some kind of storeroom. There are a lot of kind of like wooden crates in here with rusted and decayed things inside them of various things of no particular interest. At the back wall in the center looks to be a more robust wooden chest banded with metal. It is covered all over with runes you do not recognize. On the wall over it, in charcoal, are scrawled the words, "Crawling beasts from below."
More insects for you, Torval.
I don't know. There's lots of things that crawl. Sometimes Burke crawls. I would not be so judgmental. I will.
Thin piping voice from near the back of the party says, "Sometimes Torval crawls away from danger."
I will smirk.
I will attempt to restrain myself, knowing the consequences of failing to do so. But my fist kind of like tightens. And then relaxes. Might be something in that, and I'll head towards the rune-coated chest.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't appear to have a lock on it.
Oh, brilliant! I will open the chest.
Armor steps back.
Great. Okay then. Well, why don't you give me a toughness roll, please? At difficulty, I'm gonna say, let's say a difficulty of 14.
Okay. Oh no, I got a 7. Oh.
Okay. Out of interest, I'm just asking out of interest. But what's Torval's hit point situation like, and armor and stuff?
His hit points are 11, and he has light armor on him.
That's fine. That's fine then. Okay. Well, you want to roll D2 for your light armor, and
I think it's gonna. That sounds like a good number. I got 2 on my D2.
Well, that's good. There is terrifyingly loud reports in the room, and all of you have to like cling your hands to your ears, because essentially what happened when Torval opened that chest is that the chest didn't explode, but there was an explosion. Where as you kind of like all regain your senses and glance over, you can see that the runes on the side of the chest are sort of glowing a kind of sickly reddish orange, and Torval is like plastered to the floor over further back, covered in sort of like I guess like blackened soot and like pitted shrapnel all over his like face, and the front of his armor is kind of slightly cracked. Torval, take 8 hit points of damage, please.
Wow.
Okay, so that puts me on 3. Oh, and is that including the -2?
That is including the -2. It was D10 damage, and I rolled a 10.
Holy shit!
As Torval's writhing on the floor,
chest is open now, though.
I'm going to go have a look at what's in the chest straight away.
Well done, Torval.
Yeah.
Rustin will just be laughing.
In the chest is a pile of slightly dated, but not, they're recognizable as Golgenbeck money, but a pile of silver coins.
I will scoop up the pile of silver coins, but I'm not trying to like steal them. I'm just like,
just picking them up. So you're not like stealthily trying to grab them before everyone sees or anything.
I think that will be pushing it. And then I'll go over to Torval and be like, come on then, let me have a look, you idiot. And then I'll get my medicine box out.
My face. It hurts my face. Why did you open that box?
How many uses does it have, by the way?
6 uses, because I got
6 uses
+2 for my presence.
Okay, then give a D6 roll as to how well you can patch up Torval immediately.
It'll be okay, Burke. I'll be okay. Don't worry.
The dog is out of the room and is kind of like in the corridor, pacing backwards and forth, like shaking his head to try and loosen his suddenly blocked ears.
You get 5 hit points back, Torval.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I'm keeping your share of the silver for that.
What silver?
Exactly. Good job, Torval.
Does that mean the silver is getting shared out roughly equally between Riston, Harmug, and Von then, unless
Torval says it?
Unless Torval objects.
It's expensive, that medicine box.
You open the box. You put me in this place. It's only fair I get my silver.
Didn't say anything. I was just looking.
That's not how we remember it happening.
That's how I remember it.
Well, you just exploded. You don't have a reliable memory.
And where's Burke? My reliable dog, Burke. Riston, can you go and comfort him? He'll be so nervous.
I don't think Torval's arguing against the 3 ways.
Well then, it actually splits relatively well 3 ways with 1 silver coin left over, which I'm going to definitely judge that Harmug keeps for himself. In which case, Harmug take 21 silver and Riston and Von each take 20 silver.
Nice.
I'm assuming after this, there doesn't seem to be anything else in the room. Are we sort of proceeding on? And is it safe to say that Torville is the one slouching behind?
I'm definitely like slumped, muttering about how I'm going to kill all of you in your sleep.
Sure. As the other three go out, Poltroon is the last one to leave, other than yourself, Torville, and he's like dancing a little dance and crowing about a fine firework display. And then he, just before he leaves the room, he leans in quite close to you and says, "Be more fucking careful, fool! You craven fool! I'm not going to die down here." And ducks out of the door, and he's like scampering behind the others, like la la hey, la la lee.
Okay. I sort of pause for a moment and then continue on.
I'll just turn to Torval and give you a look like...
Oh, no, you were gone from the room.
Oh, okay. Doesn't
Torval was definitely the only person who heard Poltroon say that.
Yeah. Okay. It's okay, Burke.
So, are we proceeding down the corridor that remains?
Yeah.
Okay. You walk down here for quite a while. It feels like maybe a building or two will have passed overhead in the time it takes for you to walk. You finally emerge into a large underground room with sort of the wall you're emerging from as a set of steps leading down to the main part of it. It's large. It's full of what appear to be kind of feasting tables loaded up with the heaped, decaying remains of vermin and swollen, oversized insects. In seats all around these feasting tables are skeletons wearing similar robes to the ones worn by the desiccated body at the front door. As you enter, several of them turn to look at you with a muffled creak, and shadows start to swirl at a table further ahead on a raised dais. The human wailing is now more audible and seems to be a man howling, "The city shall be made hollow. Of those who rest in hollowness, they shall not be seen." Above the raised dais with the swirling shadows, in charcoal on the wall is written, "The worm grows fat, the vulture weary." Those skeletons are rising from their tables. I think we're in fight time, folks. So with that in mind, if everyone could roll their, I believe initiative is agility modified by, a D6 modified by agility. Yep. So if everyone could roll that and pop it in private chat, and then John, if you could pop an initiative banner up for us. You don't need to put the enemies on. Enemies just go, and then like enemies go, you go, or vice versa. It's fine. Got 2 4s there. You know what? The tiebreaker on that 4, John, put Torville last because he's still mildly exploded.
Singed and still picking bits of shrapnel out my face.
Absolutely. Now, I am meant to roll a D6 to see if enemies go first or you go first. I'm going to skew that slightly because the enemies are all sitting down, so it feels appropriate to give you more of a chance. Nevertheless, they do go first. I'm also going to randomize how many skeletons you're facing with a D3 plus 2. So that's 3 skeletons have risen to their feet and are going to charge towards the group. So let's handle them first, shall we? I'm going to say actually Torville stands a good chance of not being attacked here because he is at the back. And is the last to emerge. So I'm going to randomize who these skeletons are going for. The first one is going to go for Riston, second one for Von, and the third one for Von as well. So we'll handle the one attacking Riston first. If you roll your defense, that is an agility at D12. Don't forget to modify it if you're wearing medium or heavier armor, or if you have some mobility or what have you.
I'm assuming Burke is going to go at the same time as me, or just after.
Yeah. We'll do companions or whatever in the same time as the. Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Okay, so because I'm stealthy, all presence and agility tests have a reduced DR by 2.
Nice.
So this is DR10.
Yep. Sounds good.
This is a defense roll, which is agility bonus, and I roll a 17.
A 17. So yes, one skeleton comes creaking towards you. They're not wielding any weapons. They're just like scraping at you with their bony fingers, and you can hear like they're not making any noise other than like a clacking noise and the rustle of those tattered robes. And you easily kind of like sort of dodge aside from its swipe. Von, can you give me 2 defense rolls, please?
D12 plus agility 13, and
I'm not following that sequence of random letters and numbers, I'm afraid.
I'm not following it either. Sorry, what am I rolling for defense again?
Defense is it's all on the rules section. It's an agility test, modified by your agility at a standard of 12.
Got it.
But don't forget to adjust it if you have higher than light armor or like any other things that you might have.
So the first one rolled 14, so a pass, and the second one rolled 20, but not natural 20, so pass.
Okay. Are criticals only on natural 20s? Do we know? Do we think?
They're almost certainly only on naturals, I would imagine.
It does say natural 20, yeah. Natural 20 for a critical and natural 1 for a fumble. So, okay. In that case, yeah, you also dodge aside those two, the 2 grasping claws of those skeletons. And with that, it's round to your turn, I think. So, Von, going to attack one of these bony boys?
Yes. I'm going to draw my Mighty Zweihander because I got the taste for it last time.
Is this one that you picked up from the dungeon?
I think that broke at the end of the last session, and if it didn't, I'm going to say Poltroon lost it. And I
you bought this one.
Yeah,
you bought this one. Yeah, sure. Okay. In that case, yeah, go ahead and make your attack. So that is a strength at DR12.
I only rolled a 9, so that is a fail.
Yeah, your Zweihander goes wide of the clattering monstrosities in front of you. Riston.
It's more like an Einhand and Einhook.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, right, yeah. Like, yeah. There's nothing in the rules about, like, if because of the hook you can't use a two-hander or anything.
We wondered about this last time, and I think you ruled that it didn't matter, because I could, like, main swing with my dominant hand and just kind of do the bracing with the hook.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, so I will try and smash the one that's attacking me in the head with my hammer. I rolled a 13 over DR12, so...
That is an attack. That is a hit. Why don't you give me a damage roll, please?
D6 for damage, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, not a great blow, a glancing blow. I rolled a 1.
Rolled a 1. Okay. Well, then your hammer flashes out, but you just manage to basically kind of like wrap the skeleton on its bony knuckles and kind of crack a few finger bones off. But otherwise, it doesn't seem too disconcerted. Harmug.
I'll get my crossbow out and shoot one of the ones fighting Von, I think.
Sure, absolutely. Did you buy a crossbow?
Yeah, I did indeed buy a crossbow.
Nice.
Newly bought shiny crossbow. And they're presents, I think.
I think presence is for ranged, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 17 plus 2, 19.
And this, sorry, what were you shooting at? One of the ones fighting Von?
One of the ones fighting Von, yeah.
Yeah. Give me that damage roll then, please.
D8 for a crossbow. I should have got a D8 out before this point, thinking about it, since I knew I was shooting a crossbow. I'll get all of the dice out. D8. There it is. 7. Oh, that's pretty good.
That is pretty good. Your crossbow bolt slams into the skull of one of the skeletons fighting Von, and it kind of comes apart in a scattering of bones that are kind of restrained by that robe, but drop to the ground in a heap. One of the skeletons is no more. So let me look. This.
We forgot about Poltroon.
You mean you forgot about Poltroon?
For the first 2 rounds, you and your allies get +2 on attack and defense
No.
because of his capering.
Because of his capering. Oh, well, we forgot about it, so that's that.
Yeah, he's cowering. He's.
I'm not sure it
doing
would have mattered anyway. I'm not
It
sure
wouldn't have,
anything was
yeah.
that close. Even if it
No,
was, it doesn't
probably
matter.
But it is important that he's not doing his fucking job.
You know what? I'm going to rule in that case he's not doing his fucking job.
No.
Instead, he's too busy sort of like dancing around behind Torval singing a little limerick about how cowardly he is. So he's in fact not doing his job at all for this round. So there we go. Thanks for giving me that idea, John. Torval, what are you doing?
Sort of taunted by Poltroon, I will be like, I'll show you fucking cowardice. And I will
Run off back down the hall.
Run away.
Yeah. I will bravely.
I'll show you what a real coward looks like.
Oh. No, I will. I will run like charge at the nearest skeleton, shouting, "I'm gonna taste your marrow," and I'll try and bite him.
Okay. You just said nearest, so I'll just roll randomly, and that's going to be the one fighting Von. So lead us through your biting mechanics, please.
So my biting mechanics are: I roll. It's DR10, so I roll against difficulty 10. But if I get a 1 or a 2 on my damage, they get an attack on me.
Sure. So I'm assuming that's DR10 on strength, and therefore modified as such.
I believe so. Yeah.
Does it like roll an attack or anything?
I think it is just an attack.
Melee is strength normally, isn't it? So it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just seeing if I can find any
DR10
reference
to attack.
for my bite.
Yeah, I think it's modified by your strength.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'm rolling. I hit it even without my strength. And my damage was 6. So it does not get an attack back. So I just like sink my teeth into its, I don't know, collarbone or something and try and tear away.
Well, I think that whether it gets an attack isn't your actual damage roll. I think it's a separate one, but it doesn't matter in this instance.
Okay.
Because you basically leap forward, grab onto this skeleton, and like bite where its jugular would be, and just kind of gnash your teeth against that bone. There's an awful kind of screeching sound as your teeth scrape upon it, and then an even worse crunching one as you bite straight through those bones. The skull goes toppling off, and a moment later, all the kind of animus drops out of the skeleton, and it clatters onto the floor in a spray of bones and old cloth. It's up to you, Torval, whether you think you're plummeting down after like gnawing onto it, whether you're sprawling on the ground in a pile of bones now and maybe chewing on a few of them, or whether you've kept your feet. I'll leave that up to you.
I think I've sprawled down with the creature. I was incensed.
I'm just behind you, having held up the crossbow shot. I'm just going, Torval, you know I hate that sound.
Well then, let me just roll. No, actually, that doesn't matter. As you do this, Torval, the shadowy swirling ahead of you on the dais sort of resolves itself like something coming together that was already there, but which you couldn't quite see, like something passing through your gates of perception into an odd sort of, it looks almost like the skeletons you just fought, but the robes are elaborate and covered with symbols of eyes. The bones are oddly sort of translucent and see-through, and there's an area in the air around it, a sort of vibrating tremulousness that seems to indicate that this thing is kind of only maybe half here and half somewhere else. And we have an image, I believe. John, it's not that one. It's the one you prepared before of this. Not that one either. It's the one you prepared before the session. Of this, within the world of MÖRK BORG, it's referred to as a rat or wraith. Let's have the image of that up, please. It's now hovering in the air and sort of gliding towards the group. And you know what? I think it emerged sort of partway through that little scrambling fight there. So I'm just going to include its attack as part of the this. Ooh, that's nice. Have we had that cam layout before?
We haven't, because
cool.
it usually covers up important parts of the image. But when the initiative is up, it's this or Sam.
I like that. Well,
I'm
not
important.
Sam.
Okay, I'm not important.
Never important. Well, it says they always win initiative as well anyway, so you know what, that's fine. So this Wraith is going to glide itself forward and start engaging into the combat. And again, you're all roughly equal there now, so I think it's just going to... I think it's going to attack one of the two individuals who destroyed members of its congregation. So that would be Torval. Is the first one it's going to attack.
Okay.
But before that, let's keep our suspense for that. Let's just resolve the boring skeleton attack on Riston first. So can you roll your defense, please, Riston? I've just described your vicious combat as boring, but don't mind me.
No, that's fine. I mean, the first hit wasn't very thrilling. Defense is agility. Is this a DR?
It's always DR, yeah, unless I say it's 12.
Yeah, okay. I rolled a 19, so even before my agility bonus plus, I'm good.
You've leapt back. I mean, these animated skeletons do not seem particularly fearsome opponents. The Wraith, perhaps different. Torval, you said you'd fallen to the ground, so I'm going to take you on your word for that. Can you roll defense, please? And can you take a general -2 to it? You know what I mean? So reduce your
So
bonuses by 2.
if this is agility.
Mm-hmm.
I am also. Oh no, it's excluding defense. Agility tests are worse for me, but apparently it says excluding defense.
If it's excluding defense, it's fine. So
what is the -2 anyway?
So what is your agility?
+1. So
okay,
this will be a -1.
It's yeah, exactly.
I rolled a 7.
That's not a 12.
That's not anywhere near a 12.
Absolutely. So first off, I will roll D4. It doesn't say it's not affected by armor, so that's fine. So give your armor a roll, please.
Okay, that's a D2, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got a 1 on my D2.
That Wraith reaches out one long hand, and at the end of it is an oddly, like, it doesn't look as obviously the head of it is like a skull. The hands are almost like decayed, peeling flesh, and as it reaches out and touches maybe kind of like near your neck as the fingers sort of like reach out towards your face, it doesn't hurt, but you feel a horrible numbing cold spreading out through your chest. Your skin feels like, you know, when something's so cold it feels like fire, and also your lungs just feel like you can't properly gain a full breath. For now, just note wherever you want that your strength, presence, and agility have been reduced by 1.
Okay.
Oof.
Cool.
But otherwise, you are unharmed in terms of hit points.
Does Burke see me getting wounded?
Oh yeah. We didn't handle what Burke might have done in the last round, did we? But that's fine. If we forget these things, it just means nothing happens. So that's fine. But you remembered Burke this time, and therefore, as we go into your rounds, let's see what happens.
Remember him.
Von, in front of you, Torval is sort of sprawled on the ground with this Wraith reaching out and grasping at him. You're also within, I'd say Torval is kind of in enough of a state that he's not really registering about it, but you nearby can hear that in a sort of sibilant hiss, the Wraith is repeating over and over, Negrubel. You know the name. It shouldn't be spoken.
I heft my Zweihander in a wrath position and cry, "Poltroon, attend me!" And then I swing for it.
Sure. So that means that this round attacks and defense are at +2, right? for
Yes.
everyone. Yeah. Okay. Well, the Wraith is actually DR 14 to hit. So I guess you brought it down to DR 12 for the purposes of
That's
this.
fine. Okay, I swing and I hit.
Nice.
Fantastic. Just
And how much damage do we do?
that is a D10.
Spicy.
6.
Excellent. Sorry, I'm just trying to see how much health this has, because the fonts used in MÖRK BORG are always wonderful atmospheric, but occasionally on a smaller screen, quite difficult to see. So did you say 6 damage?
Yes.
Excellent. You carve through the floating shape of the Wraith with your huge blade, and it rears back with a soft hiss. You can see kind of parts of its essence floating off through the air next to it, sort of drifting away into nothingness before the form kind of like of it seals over again. It definitely seems like you hurt it. Riston.
I will aim for the one that's still attacking me. I believe there's...
Okay, and you get a bonus on that, so it's a 10
Lovely.
by default, plus whatever whatever modifiers you have.
I rolled an 18. I don't have any strength modifiers, but yeah,
That's
that's
more than
good enough to hit.
Give us a damage roll for that then, please.
Another
So
one.
another one. Again, wrapped knuckles for this skeleton, or maybe I mean, it probably can't bruise up anymore, but maybe a bit of a crack in the ribs, but nothing more as it carries on, kind of desperately flailing away at you. So far, no real significant.
Yeah.
impact.
Torval's done something to me. Hammer. That's
Sabotaged your hammer.
yeah.
Hammertage. Oh, that's going to be the thing that lasts from this session, isn't it? So, Harmug, what are you doing?
It doesn't look like this weird ghost wraith thing is paying any attention to me, does it?
No, at the moment it seems occupied with Torval and Von.
Okay, good. In that case, I'll shoot it.
Okay. Well, that's, as we say, we get a bonus from Poltroon's capering, so that's but it is more difficult to hit. So that is a normal DR12 to hit it.
Okay, definitely
With
don't
whatever
hit
your
that.
modifiers are, obviously.
So 7 in total, so nope. Bolt goes wild.
Yeah, your bolt goes wild. Perhaps you sort of... I mean, it is difficult to see the form of it as it's kind of like shimmers and blurs around it. So it's not entirely surprising maybe that you might have missed it. Pierre, do we want to start your turn with your dog just to make sure we do it?
Yeah, sure. So Burke, seeing me kind of lying on the ground, being strangled, I guess, by this rat, leaps to my defense.
Absolutely.
And...
I'm going to judge that Burke does not get the bonus from Poltroon because Burke does not understand human language.
Oh, don't listen to him, Burke. Burke, you understand human language, don't you?
So it's a DR 14 for Burke to hit.
I mean, there's also
modifiers he has.
dancing and capering and the ringing of wretched
Burke just
bells.
finds that confusing.
Yeah, Burke is disadvantaged as well by Poltroon. Burke failed. Yeah, it's weird because it says he attacks with a DR10/D6. So I'm assuming that this...
Okay.
Would this actually just be increasing it by 2? So this would
Yeah,
this
so
be
it's DR12.
DR12 for Burke.
Yeah,
well, in that case, he just made it because he just hit 12.
And a D6 of damage?
And his D6 of damage was 3.
Okay. Yeah, Burke is kind of like barking and snapping at the form of this rat as it kind of hovers in the air. The rat is kind of like reeling slightly to the side of it, and the way the rat moves, I don't want to make it sound like it is slower, but it looks slower. The way it moves is almost like there's a difference in time between you and the ghost as it like washes, it kind of flails slightly at the dog as the dog is like kind of like snapping at his hands and leaving drifting trails of the wraith through the air. Yeah, the wraith is definitely feeling a little bit under assault at this point. Torval, what are you yourself going to do?
I am going to attempt to bite off the hand that's choking me. We will see if that works.
Sure. So you're trying to gnaw on the wraith. Yeah, sure. So that's obviously so your bite easier than another strike? I can't remember what we said. I don't think it is it?
So my bite is a DR10. Is all it says. I don't know what it. like whether
So
it
that-
actually is strength based.
It must be. It must be strength. It must be strength. But we'll move that up to a 12 because of the wraith's insubstantiality.
Up to a 12, and also I get 1 less strength because I'm being. Yeah, I've had my soul.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think it matters that you're on the floor for a bite, so don't take a penalty for that.
Oh wow, this is very generous, Matt. 10 plus.
Oh, and there's
3 minus-
Poltroon's bonus as well. So
Okay, so I've got 10 plus Poltroon's bonus is 12 plus 3
No,
is
that would be
15 minus 1 is 14.
it's fine. You've done it. You've done it. Well, give me your roll then.
My damage was 2, and I'm going to roll another d6 to determine whether it gets an attack back.
Mm-hmm.
It does not.
Okay. I'm going to interpret this as you're just on the floor with this hand like creeping towards your face, and you're just like like desperately trying to like gnaw the hand away. And bits of it, you do feel like the odd kind of taste of like rotting robes and grave soil and kind of like those nasty fervent little green bugs you sometimes get in cemeteries that you've definitely tasted before in your mouth as bits of it kind of drift away, and you definitely have enough awareness to know that maybe you shouldn't be swallowing any of this as bits of it sort of like float away from your mouth. But either way, that's the end of our round. Let's do the skeleton attacking Riston first. And you were meant to have 2 rounds worth of capering from Poltroon, right? So we'll have this as the second round. So you've got a +2 to hit.
Cool. This is a defense, isn't it? Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, sorry, a +2 to defend. Yeah.
So that would make it a DR. Oh, okay. It's usually DR12. It would be a DR10 because of capering, and I get a bonus on agility, which makes it DR8. And I rolled an 18. You're
rolling high for all these low stakes rolls.
Yeah.
The dance, the magic dance of combat between Riston and this very basic skeleton continues as it doesn't manage to make contact with you. The Wraith, on the other hand, I think is just going to randomly choose between a dog, Von, and Torval. I think that's fair enough, and it's going to go for Torval again. Just doesn't like being bitten. Who does? Torval, can you give us a defense roll, please? I'd say it's a flat defense roll because you lose some from being on the ground but gain some from Poltroon, so it's just a normal defense roll.
Okay, and my agility is 0 now. So I rolled a 17. I did roll
okay.
decently.
Maybe the gnawing of the hand, shortened it a bit as you're trying to are you trying to back off away from it?
I think I'm just trying to
away along the floor? Yeah, and it's reaching out for you, but with a frustrated hiss, it doesn't manage to make contact. Let's go back round to the beginning again, Von. So this is a normal. So yeah, the Wrath has more you know what I mean, your bonus from Poltroon is cancelled out by the thing of the Wraith.
Got it.
You know what I mean. I'm assuming you're going to hit the Wraith. So.
Yeah, yes. And I miss.
The Zweihander goes wild, perhaps because the Wraith is starting to glide forward again to try and get its insubstantial claws into Torval's heart. Riston.
Well, I'm going to try smashing this thing in the head with a hammer again. So, yeah. And this time, I don't think I make it.
Remember, you had a +2 from Poltroon.
Yeah. It's DR12, and I rolled an 8. So no, I miss.
Okay, your hammer strikes wild. Harmug, is it another bolt at the Wraith?
Yeah, I think so. Let's see how I do.
So that's just a flat D12.
Yeah,
with whatever your modifiers are. That hit, did you say?
Yeah, got 17 in total.
What damage is that?
That is going to be 5 damage.
Okay. Torval, you're still like sort of scrambling along the ground away from this wraith as it sort of glides towards you, sort of almost like angling its body so that the skull is getting nearer and nearer towards you. Those ripped and decayed hands reaching out, and you can hear it. Its pained hiss has ended, and once again it is chanting over and over again. And then, like a bubble bursting, it pops out of existence, just gone in an instant. And in the wall, kind of like just over near you, is like a quivering crossbow bolt. And stood a bit further away is a disgraced priest, looking probably a little bit surprised.
I think this is the 3rd time I've ever shot this crossbow, as in the first 2 bolts were the first 2 times, so it's quite good. So I'm looking at the crossbow like,
And that's interesting. Sorry, was someone going to say something there?
I was just making choking noises because of the freezing of my throat.
Absolutely. I'm just checking something to do with morale. Okay, no, this skeleton is still going. So there we go. Do you reckon it might about to be attacked by a dog, Torval?
Almost certainly. It is made out of bones.
Sure.
Burke loves bones.
Then roll that. I believe it's DR10, isn't it, for Burke?
Yep. Burke,
how much
Burke
damage does it
hits 5.
Okay. Well, rely on when the gutterborn scum can't get the job done, the dog will. Riston, you're kind of like still in this sort of like hammer claws, when Burke, the dark hound of Torville, just kind of like sideswipes the thing off and is like down on the floor, like dragging the robe back and forth, and then settles for a femur, which he carries a short distance away and kind of starts gnawing on. We're out of combat, so you can drop initiative there, John.
Good boy, good boy. Who's a good
God.
boy?
We'd normally go for a sort of break around nowish, but I think we'll just carry on a little bit longer because I think there's a better point to stop this. So, yeah. You're in this chamber. Nothing more seems to be threatening you right now. Towards the back of it, at the rear of the dais that you that the swirling form of the wraith appeared on, is another doorway. And there's also a load of horribly decaying vermin and grotesquely bloated dead insects on the tables as well. I mentioned this I'm sure no one would.
No.
I'm just
correct. I go into the corners and I collect my fill.
Absolutely. Also, you can recover your stats now, by the way. They come back at the end of a combat.
These bugs are good for me. These bugs are good for me.
They are. For you, specifically. I wouldn't maybe want anyone else to get the idea that they could be consuming these. But give me a D4 roll.
These are my bugs. D4. I got a 1.
Okay, recover 1 HP. There's only so much HP you can recover from such foul food.
I'm distracting myself from the disgusting sight in the corner by trying to see if any of my crossbow bolts can be recovered.
Did you come up with any mechanism for doing this in the last one?
I didn't have a ranged weapon. So.
I think the horrible brutality of the world of MÖRK BORG means that maybe for each bolt you fired, you can roll, and on a 6, it will be recoverable.
I think this was actually the mechanic that we came up with last time.
Because normally out of like, in other games I use like a 50-50 thing, but I think MÖRK BORG should be mean with it.
They're all shattered on the walls, disappointingly.
Yeah, that's fine.
I hook my hook hand into Poltroon's collar, wrench him close enough to the face that my tobacco-stained spittle spatters on his face, as I say, "When I go into combat, you attend me."
Oh, Master, Poltroon is so sorry. He's a wretch, a worm. He's not worthy of... This carries on for some time.
Eventually, I am satisfied and shove him away.
I make a nervous look towards Harmug at this abusive Poltroon.
Absolutely. And you know what? As everyone moves around there, like Poltroon is there, like hunched on the ground, like writhing and sort of pouring at his face. Long after Von has just kind of like walked away, and Harmug, you're the only one to hear as the group kind of moves forward, and Poltroon is left briefly on the floor behind you. He kind of stills himself for a just the briefest second. Before, and you hear him, and you don't think it was meant for you. You don't think it was intended for you to hear it, but you hear him mutter, "The worm will turn one day, you prick."
And then
he gets up and starts.
I'm very intensely like fiddling with a crossbow bolt, pretending I'm not listening. And
Absolutely. Okay, are we proceeding kind of towards this final doorway behind the dais?
Yeah, can you remind me, was there stuff written on the wall in this one?
There was. The worm grows fat, the vulture weary.
Mm.
And also, could I have a D6? Any one of you can roll D66 for me, please. Doesn't matter who.
D66.
First one to shout out the result is the one I'll take.
John's doing it.
1 for 14.
14.
I also rolled 14. Sorry.
Oh my god! Then it was meant to be. I said that there was that wailing voice crying out horrible things as you came in here. I think I read out a bit of it about the city being made hollow. It has moved on now. It is still wailing, and now it is saying, "And the depths of the underworld shall bring forth flying spectres and crawling beasts. In their passing, the worm grows fat, the vulture weary." You literally rolled that randomly, and it was the thing I used to build the creature.
Wow.
So well done. I love it when a horrible plan comes together. The door is ajar. It is another iron door, but it is ajar. And inside, you find yourself in a chamber much smaller than the last. And only one thing of note in here, other than the heavy another iron doorway on the other side of the room. There is an old man here, rooted into the ground, his lower half distended and swollen as it seeps between the grey stone blocks, spreading some kind of visible and foul-smelling, pulsing reddish-grey corruption across the floor and up the edges of the walls. His white hair is long and unwashed, his clothes frayed and torn. He wears a ragged bandage around his eyes and is clearly in some kind of gleeful agony as he howls obscene prophecy into the still underground air. He's not he's in no. He can't attack you. He's yeah.
Does he seem to have registered we're in here at all?
Nope.
And he's the only thing in this room as far as we can see.
Yeah.
Just stay well away from him.
I think to go towards him, and then I touch my face and the cuts, and I'm like, from where I am, I'm like, "Hey, you!"
There's absolutely no response or acknowledgement that you're there. His face definitely registers a kind of unholy agony, but also a kind of almost a kind of shuddering ecstasy. And you can see wherever you're treading on the ground near this odd pulsing red corruption, it kind of it looks like a kind of bubbling fungal slime, and it kind of twitches sort of reactively towards you anytime anyone steps near it. But it's not fast, or you could definitely kind of avoid it in patches on the ground. It's not completely covering it.
Okay, so we could pass this guy by.
These prophecies, are they intelligible?
I mean, as much as any prophecies are. They definitely sound familiar, like you've heard them before in a nightmare.
I am going to get my crossbow out and aim it at him.
Sure.
But I'm not sure if I want to... I'm going to kind of try and walk around, aiming it at him, and I'm not sure if I want to...
Poltroon's voice echoes from the back of the group. Ooh, 10 points for a bullseye.
I like look at Poltroon, and I kind of go, and then I aim, and I think I fire at the man.
Sure. As you aim and fire at him, he's still kind of like crying out his prophecies. Amphelia shall have her will and drink all colour from the world. He shudders in place on the ground. Blood flows from the bolt that's gone. Were you aiming for his neck or his head, or just in that general area? A killing blow. He reaches up briefly towards the bolt in his throat and gives out a wheezing sigh and kind of flops forward. He can't fall fully onto the ground because he's still rooted between the stones, and he just dangles there. You see that there's something kind of heavy underneath, like the rags on his chest, that kind of flops forward as if something is like round his neck, dangling there, and is being held in by the clothes. He's definitely dead. The corruption on the ground is slowing in how much it twitches. You're on mute.
Remembering the silver from earlier, but forgetting what led to it, I will approach the man and see if I can see what was round his neck and perhaps snatch it into my hands.
As this is happening, I'll just look at everyone else and go, what will we do without Torval, eh?
What will we do without a meowing cat? You kind of make your way to it. I'm assuming you're kind of avoiding the corruption on the floor and kind of like skipping around it a bit. Yeah. You find yourself up against the old man. He has a most peculiar smell to him. You rummage beneath those rags on top of his kind of sunken chest, and you find a tablet hung around his neck and made of some kind of firm clay. That's, I mean, it's, you know, it is firm, but it's also clay, so it's somewhat fragile. On it are carved words in a kind of symbolic script you do not recognize. There is a vague sort of, I don't know, the tablet maybe like feel like it's very slightly warm and like maybe even very slightly vibrating. It doesn't feel threatening. Okay. Harmug, you know what? You're the most appropriate person for this. Is there a kind of like intelligence type stat? I guess it's just presence, right?
Presence is what it usually is. Yeah. I guess I might know stuff about this.
Yeah, give me a presence roll. Give me a presence roll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I pass.
You think this may be a tablet of ochre obscurity. They are potent items that's almost kind of like, they act as scrolls essentially, but scrolls sourced from a dim kind of maybe a more distant land and used by odd forlorn philosophers. You're definitely not sure that Torval has the mental capacity to be using one of these.
It's just got some words on it. Useless, and I sort of like just.
Harmug, it's valuable too.
I will 100% be like jumping at Torval if I see him about to throw it and try and catch it.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Are you trying to take this from me?
If you don't want it, I mean, right?
I mean, sort of 20 silver words. Says I want it.
Words.
Now that you want it, Torval definitely wants it.
I want it.
Torval and Burke share so many characteristics.
10.
20 silver.
12.
I can see the look in your eye. I've seen it before, Harmug. While you sleep.
What do I reckon this is worth, Matt?
A lot more than 20.
15.
All right, okay. Like greedily snatch up your 15 silver.
Sure. This tablet of
Sucker.
ochre obscurity, Harmug, you could definitely, with some study, use it as a scroll, but definitely not in this story, like outside the capacity of that. If you do end up selling it, it's worth 100 silver.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Wow.
So there we go.
You said this figure had a bandage on?
Yeah,
Is
a
it white
bandage like round his eyes. Are you going to remove that?
If I can sort of tiptoe around and avoid, the corruption,
Sure.
I'm kind of tempted to
If I could
dart in
tiptoe
and
around
whip
and
off the
remove it.
bandage.
Sure. While we're doing that, by the way, Torval and Riston, can you both give me a presence roll at, let's say, like a relatively low difficulty? Let's call it a DR8. Both give us that, and
got
yeah,
21.
that's good.
I rolled a 20.
Wow. Okay. Well, regardless, we'll go with Torval because he had the 21 then. But regardless, Riston, you managed to take the bandage off the old man's eyes. You look at what you find for a second and then replace the bandage. Torval, a small scrap of paper, as like you pass the tablet off to Harmug and count was it 15 silver? Yeah. Count your 15 silver. You see that a scrap of paper has fallen out from the old man's tattered clothes and fallen on the floor.
I pick it up. I can't read.
You
He's
can't
not
read
going to
it,
eat it
right?
again, is he?
That's right. It does have writing on it.
There was another piece. Another 5 silver.
I'm pointedly trying not even to show any interest in this piece.
I can tell. I can tell. You are. Go on, Harmug. Go on. You know you wanna. Okay, just read it, all right? Just read it. I'm interested in knowing what it is.
I take it off him and read the paper out loud so we can hear what it says.
Okay, that's fine. The piece of paper has 4 names written on it in a little list. Riston, Harmug, Torval, Von. The name Harmug is crossed out.
Okay, I will. I maybe won't read them out straight away, given what they were that I saw written on there. Then I think it said my face kind of changes color a bit, and then I don't say anything for a while.
You just like screw it up and put it in a pocket and don't mention it again.
Yeah, I think so. Unless someone else is like,
what does it say?
Doesn't matter. Not important.
What does it say?
Yeah, what Von said.
It said Riston, Torval, Harmug, and Von.
Well, that doesn't sound good. All right.
No poltroon.
And it didn't say Burke.
Ooh, Poltroon is free. Poltroon is free of the curse. Oh, great curse of doom. Great curse of doom upon thee. Ooh.
Or poltroon isn't important enough for the curse.
Oh, yeah. That must be it. That must be it. He looks quite gleeful.
I'm gonna put the piece of paper in my oil lamp to burn it up.
Okay. There is a door remaining behind the old hermit, the old unfortunate, horrible, mutated, floor-rooted hermit.
Hermit.
I assume we're opening that door and proceeding on out.
Indeed.
Okay. This door has a bolt drawn in behind it, but you manage to like waggle it and get it out and open it up. Beyond, there is sort of, it opens up oddly on like a smaller tunnel, like one you have to crouch and sort of almost like hunch your way through onto the other side. You find yourself into a set of what seem like quite old catacombs, like the kind of catacombs maybe a noble might have for their family. There are a number of old biers of kind of dead relatives and sarcophagi nearby, and the little hole you emerged from is essentially kind of like behind one of those sarcophagi, sort of hidden away. You scramble out over that. It's one kind of long passageway ahead of you that you can move along, and as you move along it, you see at the end of this passageway is like a more healthy orangey yellow glowing of torchlight, and you find yourself emerging out of a old wooden door into what seems to be a rather well-appointed and well-stocked wine cellar. And I think we will take a break there, folks. So do stick with us. We'll take a 10-minute break and then we'll be back. So we'll see you on the other side of that. Bye. Bye-bye.